Hey guys, it's Becky with Design Bundles, and I am back today for another great Silhouette Studio tutorial. Now today what we're going to talk about is designing printables. Okay, I know that probably doesn't seem exciting unless printables are your thing, right? Now a lot of people think Silhouette Studio is just for using with their Silhouette Cameo, but it is a very robust software, especially given that it's free. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to using it for designing, a couple things you can design it for, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay guys, so let's go ahead. I'm going to give you a sneak preview, okay? This is the printable that I designed. Now, is it perfect? No, but I think it's pretty cool. It really originated because I fell in love with the popsicle clip art. I don't really know who's having a popsicle party in the middle of a pandemic, but you know, hey, maybe it can happen, right? I mean, are popsicle parties even a thing? I don't know, but it seemed really cool, so I kind of went with it. So let's break this down by what we have. All right, we have one background pattern, some clip art, some text. Now this is a really gorgeous font duo, so that works out well because they're complementary to each other. And then I used a few dingbats, that's clip art, and I just typed in the details of my party. Now, after I've created this, I will be able to print it on my home printer. I can send it to be commercially printed because I can save this as a PDF file. If I have the business edition of Silhouette Studio, I can save it as a JPEG or a PNG file, that sort of thing. I can even, depending on what rights I have, and if I follow the guidelines, I could even sell this digitally. So if I sell files or if I create printables, or maybe I just want to create printables, then that's something that I could do. And it's all done right here in Silhouette Studio, but the principles are going to be the same regardless of what software you're using, with the exception of Cricut Design Space. Now, if you are trying to do something like this in Cricut Design Space, you really can, but it is a little bit more complicated because you guys have a few more restrictions. But let's go ahead and get started. Now, I cheated a little bit. I was not going to make you watch me type all of this out. So, you're welcome. But really all I did was type it out. I filled it in with black and I changed the line color from red to transparent. So with that in mind, you can select all of your text here. We want to align it. All right, we want this to look good. So I'm going to use in the transform menu under the align tab, this center horizontally. After I've centered it, I can either right click and choose group. I can do Control G on my keyboard, or there's also a icon up here that I could have used. Any of those will work. Basically, you want to group them together. Now, there are a couple things that I want to point out. When I group them together, these blue squiggly lines go away. That's important because if I'm saving this as a file, then those blue squiggly lines will show up on my finished file. All right, that's part of your spell check if you didn't know that already. So that part is completely up to you if you want to pay attention to those before you proceed with selling or printing. That's probably a good idea. After you get your text in here, now my clip art and my fonts, of course, I bought from Design Bundles and Font Bundles. So I do have the commercial usage for them. And I can just simply drag them in. I can go to File and Merge. And I can pull them in one by one. Now they're in my Downloads folder. And I've already unzipped them. Don't forget, if you are purchasing clip art to use in here, you will have to unzip them before you can open them in Silhouette Studio. But I'm going to go to Patterns first, and this is going to be my background color. I selected the blue. I really think that it went well. And then Let's see, what else do we want to bring in? If you have the designer edition or higher, you can, let me show you guys, not patterns, but there's an easier way, especially with clip art. This is really helpful. Let's see, there we go. Here's my popsicles. Oops. And if I double click on those, I can drag and drop my popsicle clip art in here. Now this clip art was really, really fun to play with. Let's see, we can bring in pretty much any popsicle that we want to. And we can bring in some of these. This is just a fun little flourish to use. Okay, so you can start to see where I'm gathering my components together. Now let's talk about your page setup. I have my machine set to none, my cutting mat set to none, my media size is set to 12 by 12, but I'm going to change it to custom, and I'm going to change this to be a 5 by 7. That seems like a decent size. Oh, not 8, 7. That's a decent size for a printable if I was going to print these out, right? So I will also change the size of my background to 5 by 7. Now, some backgrounds that you have that may not work as smoothly because you might distort the background image that you're working with. So just keep that in mind. If you're using clip art background that you can't manipulate like that, what you can do is make it larger, draw a rectangle, make your rectangle 5 by 7, and then fill your rectangle with your pattern, however you want to do that. And you can select these, and under your transform, you can choose crop. All right, so not to confuse you, but that's 2 ways to make your background fit the size that you want. And once you get it in place, you can go ahead and send that to back. Okay, and that's going to be a game that you're going to play consistently through this type of project, is send to front, send to back, bring forward, send backwards, and that's okay. Next, we can size down our text. Let's see, there we go. And this is your center to page. Again, this is under the transform menu, and is very, very useful to use these to make sure that everything you're working with is centered. All right, now obviously our text does not stand out very much against our bright colored background. That's okay. We're going to go back to draw a rectangle, and this is something that I use a lot in my designing. I'm going to draw a rectangle. I will go ahead and also center it to page. Here, let's zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see. And I am going to fill with white. And for now, I'm going to change the line color to transparent. Now, obviously, it covered up your text, so you can send backwards if you want to a few times. A lot of times, I'll just go ahead and send to back and take my background and send to back again. And it just you're kind of playing with that order there. Now that, no offense, that's kind of boring. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change the line color to something a little bit more fun. I'm going to do yellow, and I'm going to increase my thickness. Now, before we go much farther with this, we don't have to worry about cut lines. Okay, we're creating this as a printable. We're not actually going to cut this out on our machine. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of times you know, if you were going to manipulate your cut line thickness, that's not usually going to give you the results that you want if you're trying to cut a border like that. But for printing a border like that, it's going to work well. So just throwing that out there. I didn't want to confuse anybody, but we are going to thicken up the line, and yes, you will be able to see it when you print. Okay, now I'm going to use a shortcut on my keyboard, Control left. If you're on a Mac, that's going to be Command and left. When I say left, I mean your directional arrow. Okay, you can also find those here if you're following my mouse is the replicate panel. Basically, the control left is just a duplicate feature. All right. Now, one difference I'm going to do is change the fill to transparent. And I'm going to rotate it just a little bit. I'm going to come back, center to page, and you kind of see where we're going here. I'm creating, instead of just a plain border, and you can do this with squares, circles, and other shapes too. But I just moved it a little bit, and it kind of creates some dimension. All right, I can do it again, but this time I'm going to twist it the other way. Center to page again, and there we go. Now, of course, you can determine how much you want to center and how much you don't want to center, so that part is up to you. I liked it when it was pretty off the scale there. Okay. So now I have given definition to my text and also added a fun little border around it. All right, so where did my clip art go? There we go. Now the clip art obviously is a little large. We can go ahead and size it down. And pretty much all I want to do, I want to select all these. I'm going to go ahead and hit bring to front. That way they're all on top. And then I can pick and choose where I want to put these. I can use the free rotate, give them a little rotation. I just kind of want to fit them around the border so they look fun. There's no real rhyme or reason. And of course you can make them larger, smaller, just depending on what you're working with. And of course I had to put the two rainbow ones on opposite ends. Okay, so basically we have the four corners taken care of. There, we can make that one a tad bigger. We got a little bit more room on that side. That's a really cute watermelon popsicle. Who would have thought? Now I added this fun little flourish here. Of course, all of this is up to you. This is just kind of where my brain took me. But when you start to let your creative juices flow, I think you'll be surprised at, how it just kind of, it comes to you. You start to see open spots and you think, what can I put there? What can I put over here? And I'm going to let you in on one other little secret. So I made a duplicate of my popsicle here. And I'm going to open my text. Now, the Joy and Hugs font come with some really neat... Oh, goodness. Come on, Becky. There we go. They have a dingbat Joy and Hugs extras. So if you locate your glyphs in here, I took advantage of this little arrow and rotated it 90 degrees. And I rotated my popsicle 90 degrees. And then I made my popsicle larger, and see how I'm fitting my arrow right in there? And I want to get as many colors as I can because this is just a really fun rainbow invitation. I'm going to select both of these, the popsicle and the dingbat. I'm going to go to my modify and choose crop. That's pretty similar, to just learning to manipulate things like that, but it guarantees that I have a fun little accessory to go on this side that also matches in with my colors. So don't be afraid to work with your patterns and backgrounds in that way. You can also add something that also seems to add just that little extra something is circles. So just draw a tiny little circle. Now remember, this is our duplicate. Here, I'll do it using the menu this time so you guys can see. Duplicate, 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 duplicate. And you can do this. I usually do like an odd number. So that time I've got 7. I can space this one out a little bit. select all of these. I want them to be evenly spaced. So I'm going back to transform. I'm going to go horizontal spacing. And then I can do it again. So I'm going to use my rotate here, straighten it out. Then I'm going to, we'll do it this way since I did it the other way last time. Send it back so that I get those circles on top. I'm going to select those and go back to modify and crop. And then I can insert those wherever I want. So if I feel like that's making it a little cramped, I can ungroup and bring that down a little bit. You know, we could probably even stand to make our text a little bit smaller, but we don't have to go crazy with it. Okay, so basically you're done. All right, so basically you import a background that you like, type out your text, make some sort of fun little border, add your clip art, manipulate some of your accessories here, the circles or the arrow, you know, added this little splash on this side, and that's kind of it. And I know I'm making it simplified, you know, but the great thing about making these printables is that, especially if you're in the market for selling custom printables like this, all the hard work is done. You would be able to put this out to sell, and then you would be able to come in here, change the details to reflect your customer's information, and that's it. Then you would just resave it and send it to them. And it works out really, really great. And then, like I said, remember, you know, that there are a lot of places that you can get, I say commercial printing, but a lot of times your local print shop or a little tidbit, you can go to Walgreens, they have poster printing, and you can send over files like this to have printed on either poster board or they have these really fun like foam core, and I use them for signs all the time. I created the sign for my vinyl store like this, and I sent it, and they print it, not Walgreens obviously, but a commercial printer down the road printed it out for me. It was, I think it's 8 feet wide and 4 feet tall. It was like $100 because I had already done all the hard work of designing it myself. So literally all they had to do was print it out. So there's really a lot that you can get into. You can do this with birthday boards. All right, you guys know what I'm talking about with birthday boards, where it has like my first birthday and like all the accomplishments for that year, and maybe, you know, what my favorite foods are and that sort of thing. It's really popular for like, you know, years 1 through probably 4. You know, I mean, I'm sure your 13-year-old doesn't want a birthday board, but you know, hey, maybe your 16-year-old does, right? So there's so much that you can do. I keep calling them printables, but they're not just printables. There's just like this whole market. And once you conquer creating them in, you know, I say Silhouette Studio because that's what I use, but basically in whatever software you're using, then half the battle is gone. All right, so let's talk about saving this. Remember, I said that you could save this at a minimum, even in the free version of Silhouette Studio. You can save, usually you can save as a PDF, because there are 2 ways. I can go to File and Save As. I'm going to save this to my hard drive. Now, I'm going to dump it on my desktop because that's just what I do. I have the business edition, so of course I'm able to just choose whatever edition that I want down here. Okay. If you're on the free format, this is actually going to be under your print options. You're going to go to print, and I'm on Windows 10, but I have, where is it? Microsoft Print to PDF. Okay. I believe that Mac users, you also have something pretty similar to this. If you're using an older computer and this isn't an option for you, you can download a free program called Bullzip PDF Printer. Okay, so you can definitely do a lot even within the free program. And then, of course, once you're ready to upgrade, it is a lot easier to do it with the business edition of Silhouette Studio. You can start saving with a transparent background, and you can save it in higher resolutions and that sort of thing. So I know I listed a few examples already, but I really urge you to, next time you go into maybe a business, really look around and see, you know, walk down the party aisle. All right. What are you spending money on? What are consumers spending money on? That sort of thing. And hopefully it'll, give you a little bit more of a taste. Planners. This is really big in the planner market. You can do this to create your own covers and dividers. And I mean, I could go on and on. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to stop. But really, really great and really useful. And I love Silhouette Studio for being such a robust software.
Well, I mean, I cannot be the only one who really loves what all Silhouette Studio can do. So hopefully you found today's tutorial useful. I know there's always a need for printables, whether you sell them digitally, whether you use them for yourself, party invitations. You could make big signs. I made the big sign for my vinyl store. It's like 4 feet by 8 feet long. Saved the file, sent it over, and had it commercially printed. So, there's just so much you can do. Don't let the word printables fool you because, really what we're talking about today is just designing files, right? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I really appreciate you watching today. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I do come back and check in with you guys, and I love to answer your questions. So make sure you also subscribe to the channel because we have a lot of really fun tutorials for you, especially now that we're coming up on the holidays. It's just the perfect time to really get in there with your crafting, right? So, all right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.